whole world never say that when they egging on the beef. When everybody put on a song, everybody egging out, nobody don't be saying that. We feel like that right now.
That's your Gap hoodie, is that right? That's you, who you shooting at? All right, now back it up again.
The streets of Memphis got hit with a situation so heavy, it froze the whole city in place. People still talk about that moment because it wasn't just another problem. It was the spark that opened up a deeper conflict, and the impact was felt far beyond Tennessee. Memphis. Tennessee is known for standing firm and keeping things real. But what happened in November 2021 had the whole community shaken. Even in a place that's seen plenty of tough moments, this one stood out in a way nobody could ignore. We're talking about the sudden and tragic loss of a man the city respected on a major level. Young Dolph. This wasn't a random conflict or a misunderstanding that got out of control. This was the type of event that had people asking serious questions and trying to understand how things reached such a heavy point. On November 17th, 2021, the 36-year-old rapper, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., pulled up to Makita's homemade butter cookies, a spot he always supported. And everything changed in an instant.
No Big Juke?
Yeah, Juke was my boy.
Oh, that was your friend?
Yeah, that was my boy.
Well, in the trial, in the Justin Johnson straight drop trial, they say that Juke had a 100K hit on Dolph.
This wasn't during the night or hidden away. It was broad daylight, in full view, with people around, and whoever was behind it clearly didn't worry about being seen. Young Dolph wasn't just another artist from the city trying to rise up. He was already stamped as one of Memphis's most respected figures. A self-made entrepreneur who built Paper Route empire from scratch without letting anyone control his path. That level of independence made him a symbol for a lot of people. When those responsible unleashed 22 shots, 22, it showed this wasn't just an attack, it was an extreme act meant to overwhelm him. That kind of force wasn't just intense. It shook the entire city and left the community trying to process what they just lost. That kind of move wasn't just an attack. It was a message meant to shake the whole block.
Well, since our last interview, Justin Johnson, a.k.a. Straight Drop, got sentenced to life in prison for the murder of young Dolph.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think they gave him another 50 years.
But when it's egging on, it's all fun and games. When everybody promoting the beef against other rappers, they love it. That's the song you'll go watch, go listen to before you listen to his whole album.
The surveillance cameras caught everything, clear as day, showing two people in ski masks pulling up in a white Mercedes and jumping out with their weapons ready. All this while Dolph was simply trying to grab some cookies he loved. After they let off a long burst of shots, they took off quick, like nothing even happened. What they left behind was a city in disbelief and a community trying to understand how something this extreme could go down in broad daylight. The Memphis police didn't take this lightly at all. Within a few months, authorities tracked down 4 suspects and brought official charges. Justin Straight Drop Johnson and Cornelius Smith were identified as the individuals who allegedly carried out the shooting itself. Hernandez Govan was labeled by authorities as the organizer who planned the whole thing, and Jamarcus Johnson, Justin's half-brother, was accused of helping with the escape and the payment linked to the situation. The justice system had started moving. Arrests were happening. But anybody who understands how the streets really operate knew this couldn't possibly be the entire picture. 4 people don't just decide to set up something this serious without someone guiding the play behind the scenes. People kept asking the same heavy question: who pushed this whole situation forward and who had enough influence to make a plan like this even possible? Somebody out there wanted young Dolph gone, and that meant the real story had deeper roots than what was being shown on paper. To understand why young Dolph lost his life to those bullets, you gotta trace things back, way back, to one of the most intense rap conflicts that Memphis ever witnessed. The long-running battle between young Dolph and another major Memphis name, Yo Gotti. This wasn't some harmless online back and forth or a couple of sneaky lines slipped into songs. This conflict ran deep. It was personal. It had history behind it, and it stretched across years involving teams, record labels, tense situations, and losses that hit the city hard. This was the type of feud that carried real consequences in the streets, the kind where both sides stayed alert, ready for anything, and the pressure was so intense you could feel the energy shift anytime their names got mentioned together. Everything started heating up around 2014, back when young Dolph was rising fast and building his name through a strong independent grind. Yo Gotti, real name Mario Mims, was already established in Memphis with his CMG movement. And the story goes that he tried to bring Dolph into the label as a new artist. On the surface, it looked like a clean business move, a respected veteran reaching out to a talented up-and-comer. But Dolph wasn't rocking with it. He already had his own vision mapped out, his paper route empire building step by step, and he wasn't trying to be another artist under somebody else's direction, getting told how to move or what lane to stay in. Dolph wanted full control, full ownership, and the ability to run his business his way, which is real boss behavior you gotta respect, even if it didn't sit well with everybody around him. That independence was a big part of who he was. But the word around the city was that Yo Gotti didn't handle the rejection smoothly at all. According to Dolph, the vibe flipped quick. He claimed Gotti went from supporting him heavy to throwing shade after he turned down the offer. In 2016, Dolph even tweeted about it, saying, "Bra went from being my Nabo one fan." And when Dolph tweeted that this man went from wanting to sign him to becoming his biggest hater, it said everything about how he felt. To him, someone who once showed support had switched up and started acting different.
You know how many people miss Dolph, man? And miss Big Juke, man? It fed a lot of people, bro. Like, we just, we as on the outside looking in, we just think about that shit a couple of days and whatever else on social media after that, but they families, they children, they brothers and they cousins, them people hurt for that.
And anybody from the streets knows that when someone flips their energy over pride or business, things can turn serious fast. Once Dolph made it clear he wasn't joining anybody's camp, the tension didn't calm down. It grew quick. It wasn't long before both artists started sending shots through their music, and the situation went from competitive to personal real fast. In 2016, Young Dolph dropped an album titled King of Memphis, which came off as a direct challenge to Yo Gotti's long-standing claim to that title. That alone had people talking, but things got even hotter the following year. In 2017, Dolph dropped Play with Yo Bitch, a track that aimed straight at Gotti's pride and didn't hold back at all. Dolph claimed he had a past connection with the woman Gotti shared a child with, and the music video even featured someone styled to look like Gotti getting mocked. The cover art showed missed calls labeled from Ho Gotti Baby Mama, which pushed the disrespect to a whole different level. In street culture, that kind of move isn't taken lightly. That's not just a lyrical jab, that's a full-on challenge to someone's image and respect. When something hits that close to home, the reaction usually goes way past music. And when you're dealing with people who have real connections, strong pride, and teams behind them, that level of disrespect can turn a music rivalry into something much heavier in real life. And this is the point where everything switched from music rivalry to real-life danger. In Memphis, a city with strong neighborhood pride, deep history, and solid street ties, public disrespect doesn't just sit online on Spotify or YouTube. When someone publicly challenges a person's reputation in a place where respect means everything, things can leave the music world fast. When people feel their image or their team is being tested, somebody eventually decides to settle it the street way. And sadly, that's exactly how things played out. And it didn't happen just once. It happened more than a few times. The first major situation hit in February 2017 during CIAA tournament weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. On February 25th, Young Dolph's bulletproof SUV got hit with more than 100 shots. Over 100. It was clearly a coordinated attack from people who wanted to take him out for real. The only reason Dolph walked away from that situation was because he had already prepared and got the vehicle protected. That move saved his life. But the danger didn't stop there. Not even close. 7 months later, in September 2017, Young Dolph was shot multiple times outside the Loews Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles, and this time, it was extremely serious. He was rushed into critical condition, fighting to survive, and the city held its breath waiting for updates. At first, reports mentioned Yo Gotti as a person of interest only because he happened to be staying at the same hotel, but the LAPD stepped in quickly and made it clear he wasn't a suspect in the case. One person connected to Gotti's circle, Corey McClendon, was arrested for attempted murder, but just like previous situations, he eventually beat the case and walked free. By the time the trial finally began, the city was locked in and paying attention like never before. The courtroom in September 2024 had everybody on edge because this wasn't just a regular case. This was the moment people had been waiting on for almost 3 years after Young Dolph lost his life. Every person in Memphis with ties to the streets or the music world had their eyes glued to that courtroom. This wasn't the type of situation where some unknown person got blamed and nobody cared. This trial had the potential to bring out names, connections, and details people never expected to hear in public. Justin Straight Drop Johnson walked in facing serious charges: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and possession of a weapon as someone legally restricted from carrying one. If he got convicted, he was basically staring at spending the rest of his life behind bars with no real chance of freedom again. The prosecution, led by Shelby County Assistant District Attorney Paul Hagerman, came in heavy with evidence. They had surveillance footage showing two masked individuals stepping out of a white Mercedes and opening fire while Dolph was inside the cookie shop. They had phone records putting Johnson and the other defendants in the same area at the same time the situation unfolded. They even had ballistics reports connecting the weapons used to the suspects, so the physical evidence alone was strong, but none of that compared to the biggest hit to Johnson's defense. The most damaging piece of the whole case, the thing that shook the courtroom, was the testimony from his co-defendant, Cornelius Smith. He decided to cooperate with authorities and give information in hopes of getting a lighter sentence, which changed the momentum instantly. The moment he took that stand, everybody knew the situation had shifted in a major way. Cornelius Smith's testimony hit the courtroom like a bomb and took the whole case to a level nobody expected. Once he started talking, everything shifted because he didn't just admit to being involved. He started laying out details that made the situation way bigger than just two people from the neighborhood acting on their own. According to what Smith said under oath, this wasn't random street drama or a small-time disagreement between lower-level hustlers. He claimed the situation around young Dolph's killing went far higher up and involved people with serious influence in Memphis. Smith testified that the order to target young Dolph came from Anthony Big Jook Mims, Yo Gotti's older brother, and someone widely known as a major figure connected to CMG. Hearing that name in open court had the whole room frozen because it added a completely different layer to the story. Smith claimed that Big Jook offered a payment of $100,000, 100 bands, to take out one of Memphis's biggest rap stars. That number alone had people whispering because it painted the picture of a planned operation instead of something random or personal. According to Smith's version, the money was supposed to be split between everyone involved. He and Justin Johnson were each supposed to get 40 racks for carrying out the act, while Hernandez Govan, labeled as the organizer, would get 20 bands for putting the plan together and coordinating the moves. Smith even stated that he and Johnson had in-person meetings with Big Jew himself, which made the courtroom shake even more. If true, that meant the whole situation reached into circles most people assumed would never get mentioned out loud. Smith claimed that in the weeks leading up to the incident, he and Johnson met with Big Jew to go over how everything was supposed to unfold. He even said that after the act was carried out, they hopped on FaceTime with Big Jook to confirm it was completed, which had the whole courtroom tense because that level of detail made everything sound way more coordinated. But his testimony got even more surprising when he claimed that someone connected to CMG dropped 50 bands to cover his legal fees after he was arrested in January 2022. According to Smith, he didn't know the exact person who paid it, but he insisted the money came from someone linked to the CMG circle. That suggested that the label, or at least someone tied to it, might have been trying to look out for the people involved in the situation. If that claim were true, it would mean this wasn't just one individual putting things in motion. It would hint at a deeper level of involvement, raising questions about whether more people had roles behind the scenes. It could even point toward possible interference or support after the fact, reaching higher than most expected. But this is where everything started getting complicated. Justin Johnson's defense attorney, Luke Evans, came out strong and immediately attacked Smith's credibility. He argued that Smith was changing details or stretching the truth to secure a lighter deal from prosecutors. Evans brought up a letter Smith supposedly wrote to his family from jail, where he allegedly admitted he would say anything necessary to avoid spending the rest of his life behind bars. If that letter Smith allegedly wrote is real, it puts a huge dent in his credibility and makes people question everything he said on the stand. It raises the possibility that he might have been saying whatever he thought prosecutors wanted to hear just to protect himself. Evans didn't stop there.
How did you feel when Straight Drop got sentenced to the murder?
I don't feel no type of way. I don't put myself in that like that. I kill myself.
He went straight at the weak spots in Smith's story, especially when it came to money. Smith told the court he was supposed to receive $40,000 for being involved, but then admitted he only got $800 total. $500 at first, and then $300 later. That kind of gap made the whole situation look shaky. Even with all of those issues, the jury still believed the prosecution's version of events. On September 26, 2024, Justin Johnson was found guilty on every charge: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and possession of a weapon as someone legally barred from having one. The jury looked at everything: the surveillance video, the phone data, and yes, Smith's testimony. Even though his story had problems, all of it together was enough to convince them of Johnson's guilt. When sentencing came down, Johnson received life in prison, which in Memphis means he has to serve at least 51 years before he can even think about anything else. he's around 30 years old right now. So if he manages to make it through that whole stretch, he'd be in his early 80s by the time he gets out. Big J's passing completely changed the direction of this situation because it erased the one person who might have held the clearest details about what really happened to young Dolph. If Big Jook truly had any involvement like Smith claimed, then he would have known exactly who else, if anyone, was aware of the plan. He might have been the only person able to say whether he talked with Yo Gotti about everything or if he moved entirely on his own. Nobody knows if he acted solo out of loyalty, pressure, or personal reasons. And now that he's gone, whatever information he carried is gone with him. That leaves a wide gap in the story that may never be filled again. His passing also removed what could have been the main key to connecting every part of this situation and finally understanding who held full responsibility for what happened to young Dolph. And now, people are left with one big question: who truly made the final choice behind all this? This entire situation forces the hip-hop world to face the dangerous area where music, reputation, and real-life energy blend together. Rap has always been competitive. Lyrical challenges, bold statements, and people claiming their spot at the top. That's where some of the most iconic moments in hip-hop came from. Diss tracks, sharp lyrics, and bold confidence made hip-hop exciting and pushed artists to be better. That creative energy is part of what built the culture from day one. But when artists also have real personal ties, long histories, and strong teams behind them, things can go from music to something far more serious. The line between performance and real tension becomes thin, and what starts in a studio can spill into real life way too easily. Young Dolph left behind family who loved him deeply, and they now have to move through life with an empty space that cannot be replaced. Big Jook's passing left another family dealing with heartbreak that happened unexpectedly right in front of them, and the people connected to these events are now facing long-term consequences that will keep them away from the outside world for decades. And for what? For image? For pride? For loyalty to a group or a neighborhood? For a rivalry that spiraled out of control? Whatever anyone thought they were protecting ended up costing far more than it was ever worth. The tough truth is that we may never have a full understanding of who was actually responsible for everything surrounding young Dolph's situation. Some answers left with Big Jook, and some may never come out at all. What is clear is that young Dolph's absence represents a heartbreaking loss of talent, creativity, and leadership. His departure shook families, shook Memphis, and showed how quickly things can escalate when music conflicts mix with real-world pressure and long histories. Young Dolph was respected for building his business on his own, supporting Memphis, and pushing through major challenges to create a powerful career on his terms. His absence removed a major voice from hip-hop, a positive force from his city, and someone irreplaceable from his family. And even though the courts handled certain individuals involved in the situation, the larger questions, why everything unfolded the way it did, who made the final decisions, and whether anyone with influence played a role, remain unclear and may never be fully answered. Thank you for watching this breakdown. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.